Hello, hello, hello. I pray you guys are having an amazing Sunday. I'm not going to be on here very, very long. I actually have somewhere to go, so I can probably give you guys about 20 to 30 minutes. But I did want to talk really briefly with you about something that's trending right now that's all over the news. What's crazy is I almost went live on my other channel, which I really don't have that many viewers on because I only put content on there from my business or what have you. Anyhow, again, glad to see you. Hello, Sister Chrissy. I love you, sis. Hello, Sister Karen. Hello, Sister Lindsay. How are you? Since I don't have a lot of time to be before you, I have to jump straight into the message. I wanted to talk about really briefly about demonic contracts because a lot of people genuinely don't believe that these are real. And a lot of people are dealing with demonic contracts right now and they're completely oblivious to it. Now, I saw something on the internet this morning when I was getting ready for church, and it was a minister, and he was talking about this issue or what have you with, I think, Young Soldier. Is that his name? I think it's Young Soldier, what have you. He was talking about the fact that, he did a video talking about he sold his soul to the devil. And, he was saying in his video, and I respect his opinion because I completely understand where he was going with it. He was saying that you can't really sell your soul to the devil because your soul belongs to God. And I'm sitting there, I'm just getting ready and I'm thinking to myself, your overall soul does belong to God. But at the end of the day, while you're on the face of this earth, you can do something where it's almost like leasing your soul. So I guess the word sale, I mean, if we look at that from a legalistic point of view, at the end of the day, your soul belongs to God. However, when you're on the face of this earth, you can essentially sell your soul. And we see this in the book of Matthew. And I pulled up the scripture. I hope I still got it pulled up because I've been all over the place. Give me a second. No, I don't still have it pulled up. So give me a second. I'm going to pull up the scripture. Like I said, I'm jumping straight into it because I got about a few minutes with you guys. And then I have to all right, I got to get out of here. And I'm going to read English Standard Version, Matthew 4. Matthew 4, English Standard Version. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, and he was hungry. And the tempter came and said to him, if you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread. But he answered, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. Then the devil took him to the holy city and set him on the pinnacle of the temple and said to him, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you. And on their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. Jesus said to him again, it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory, and said to him, all these things I will give you if you fall down and worship me. Then Jesus said to him, begone, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and only shall you serve. Then the devil left him, and behold, the angels came and were ministering to him. That brings into mind James 4:7, where God said, submit yourself to God and resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Submit yourself to God and resist the devil, and he will flee from you. So I want to kind of give you this concept because it is possible for you to sell your soul on earth, but ultimately your soul belongs to God. Ultimately, whenever you leave your body, your soul has to return to the maker. As a matter of fact, Jesus paid the price for us. For those of us who have accepted his ransom, Jesus paid the price for us. But I want to give you this concept, and this is something the Lord was laying on my heart this morning. In America, I want you to understand you can never truly own property. Period, point blank. You will never own property in America. It doesn't matter how they term it, you will never truly own property in America. Because if I go buy a house and if you buy the house, you're buying the land that the house is on as well, but you're really not buying it. In truth, you're just leasing. So if I go buy a house, I still have to pay taxes on that land. And there is no way for me to go to the government and say, hey, can I just pay you guys off so I never have to pay taxes again? No, I still have to pay taxes on that land. And so that's the way that the American government makes sure that they own everything. They own everything. So even the house, that when you buy a house and you pay it out cash, it is still genuinely not your home. It belongs to the American government. You have the illusion of that being your home. And while many of us are happy to have that, at the end of the day, it's not really your home because it's own property that the government will not sell. So you have to constantly pay taxes on that property every single year. And if you don't pay the taxes on that property, they will take your home. They will take I mean, obviously they can't snatch the land from under your house. So they will take possession of your home. So you never truly own anything, but we have the illusion of owning something that is very similar to how our souls are. Our souls, yes, we can go out here just like you can go buy, they say buy a house or buy land. You can go out there and do that, but ultimately you can't really buy the home. And it's the same thing with when it comes to the soul. You can't genuinely wholeheartedly sell your soul because you ultimately belong to God. But while you're on the face of this earth, you do have a legality. You do have what's called will. You do have the freedom of will. So you have the ability to sell your soul on earth. But in the eternal life, your soul essentially belongs to God. So can his soul be redeemed? Yes, it can. I'm going to let you guys see the video before I go any further. I want to let y'all, I always do some stuff like this. I'm going to let you guys see the video of him talking about he sold his soul, and prayerfully I can find it. Prayerfully, come on, here we go. And I found this on TikTok.
Watch what his response is after he did that.
Wait, I mean.
Flysoulja said that he sold his soul to the devil. Watch what his response is after he did that.
Trying to see if I can get
so
it.
I sold about a week, not today, but about a week ago, I sold my soul. You understand what I'm saying? And ever since I sold my soul, I haven't been happy ever since. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, we'll end it there. We'll end it there because he doesn't say anything else beyond what he's already said. He sold his soul when they asked him for what he said it was for fame. And I want you to know this is not a foreign concept. When Jesus was tempting, give me a second. Okay. All right. So I won't be going anywhere. I can stay live with you guys. I was waiting on a text message. All right. It's not a foreign concept. When Satan tempted Jesus, what he was essentially asking Jesus to do was sell his soul. Now, obviously, my soul doesn't belong to me to truly sell. But on earth, God gave me possession of my soul. That means that I can go make a deal with the devil if I wanted to, which I'm not crazy enough to do. But what then happens in situations like this is if you sell your soul to the devil, basically what you're basically doing is committing to be a slave. You're willfully committing yourself as a slave to the enemy, and you're committing yourself to a life of eternal or an eternity of damnation. That's what it means to sell your soul. Another thing we have to remember what the soul is. The soul is comprised of the mind, will, and emotions. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. But the soul is comprised of the mind, will, and emotions. Your soul is comprised of your mind, your will, and your emotions. And so you notice after he went into this contract, what he said is that he's been experiencing anxiety. Again, the soul is comprised of the mind, will, and emotions. And so what then happens is whenever you sell your soul to the enemy can only give you according to what he already has. First and foremost, he usurps your authority because he's a defeated enemy. He has to get your authority, and what you're exchanging for, what you're really exchanging is for knowledge, because obviously he is full of knowledge. He's been around, since thousands, I can't even say thousands of years, but he's been around for quite some time. He has knowledge. The Bible says that he was the covering sheriff, so he has access to information that many of us don't have access to. He can tell you because the wealth is already on the inside of you. Money, greatness, everything that you need is already on the inside of you. So basically, all the person is doing is asking Satan to tell them how to reach into that. And of course, when you're promoting music that is ungodly, what have you? You're just asking Satan for secrets, what have you, and asking Satan to basically touch the hearts of people in the music industry. That's all you're doing. Is people who are submitted to him. You're asking him to touch the hearts of those people, to even begin to, mess around with people, what have you. Again, it's not a foreign concept. Selling your soul is not a foreign concept. It is actually something that is very prevalent. It was prevalent back then. And I want you to understand this. When Satan went and tempted Jesus, that wasn't the first someone he had tempted. This is something that Satan has been doing, probably since the beginning of time. When he went into the Garden of Eden and he tempted Eve, he said, "Hey, listen, you're not going to die if you eat from that tree. God knows that your eyes will be open and you will be as a god, or what have you." So what he was doing was he was tempting her into a demonic agreement. He was tempting her outside the will of God. He was tempting her outside the will of God. Now let's talk really briefly about young Dolph. You guys know that there's a rapper. I never heard of him before this week. But I never heard of Young Soldier before this week either, to be honest with you, because I'm so far removed from that, and I'm not trying to act like I'm better because I used to be in that world. But I'm just saying I don't listen to that music or what have you, and I really don't watch the news that much. But it's been trending on TikTok and all over the place. And um, when I saw the news about young Dolph and his death or what have you, my first thought being a deliverance minister, my first thought is always, is it a contract? That's typically my thought when a person is taken out of this earth early, especially a male. My first thought is that a demonic contract? Does it look like a demonic contract? So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll do a little bit of research, because I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to pick it apart or what have you, because you want to know how the enemy moves. This is how you defeat him in every industry. Now he's already overcome. Jesus already defeated him on the cross, but he successfully moves in certain people and in certain industries. And so basically, you have to go into those places and cut off his head and remind him that he's defeated, take authority over him, and all of that. And so that's the first thought that I had was, is this a demonic contract? That's the first thought that I had. And let me see if I can pull it back up. I ended up pulling up and I did some research on him because, again, thank you, Sister Joyce. God bless you. Beautiful lady. Thank you, sis. All right. I did some research on him to see. And one thing I came up with is, one, I found his Twitter. He uses the pentagram symbol on his Twitter. And he has some lyrics in one of his songs. He said, "If I sacrifice myself, will I go to hell? If I sacrifice myself, will I go to hell?" Sometimes, to them, it's just lyrics. And most of the people in the industry, there are a lot of celebrities who have reportedly sold their souls to the devil. Lady Gaga is reported to be one, allegedly. I don't know. They said it's a video that says Miley Cyrus is allegedly somebody who sold her soul to the devil. And people do this type of stuff because they're trying to get rich and famous, but they don't understand that Satan is a liar and a deceiver. And at the same time, God placed enmity, and I cannot say that enough. God placed enmity between Satan and mankind, and between mankind and Satan. What that means is, it doesn't matter whether you're saved or unsaved. It doesn't matter if you're willfully serving Satan. People who are in the occult, people who are Satanists, don't even realize the same devil that they serve hates them. Enmity means he made them enemies. He placed this there is no way for mankind and demonic spirits to to, I'm trying to find a way. I can't say coexist. They can't be friends. Short term for it. Can't be friends. So when you're serving the enemy, it's amazing because he hates your guts. And I remember being in the world. I remember making this comment when I was in the world about how I was going to go out and, I was going to get saved. I was going to go do everything I wanted to do because I was having fun. And then I was going to get old and I was going to get saved so I can go to heaven. That showed that was the evidence that I did not know God. I remember making that statement. I was probably around 19 years old, 19 or 20 years old. But that showed that I did not really genuinely know God because I was insinuating that I could manipulate God. That's what I was insinuating. I was insinuating that I can manipulate God. But thankfully, God snatched my edges right. It's like almost after that statement, he started to snatch my edges or what have you. But a lot of these celebrities, a lot of these people, and it's not even just the celebrities. There are people out here right now, literally, who are contemplating selling their souls because they've been putting a lot of effort into their music. They've been trying to do everything to get wealthy. They've been trying to do everything to get rich. And you may say, why? It's because people have this erroneous belief that if they sell their soul, thank you, Sister Regina. God bless you, beautiful lady. I don't know if I gotta make sure I inbox you. I gotta make sure I inbox you. But people have this erroneous belief that if they sell their soul, that they'll find peace, because most of the times when people get into that industry and they doing all this stuff, most of the time it's centered around rejection. Is most of the times it's centered around rejection, because what rejection does is rejection will cause you, for example, your father not in your life, maybe if the father's not in the life, and I hate to be a bearer of bad news, and this is to my sisters, you have to be mindful that you heal, because this is why God never wanted us to sin, because sin typically leads to more sin, which leads to more sin, which leads to more sin. So a lot of times what happens is a woman, for example, she's trying to be loved. She wants somebody to love her. And even though the Bible speaks against sex before marriage, she still gives herself out and has sex before marriage. Consequently, she ends up with children. The man cheats or he leaves her life, and the woman ends up frustrated. She ends up angry because the man is not present in her life to help her raise her children. Because part of the fantasy that we typically have as women is that, he's going to be rubbing our belly throughout our pregnancy. We typically fantasize about that moment when we tell him that we're pregnant and how he's going to jump for joy, and it's going to be an exciting moment. And then once we have the child, he's going to be there in the hospital holding our hands. That's a typical fantasy of most women. But in reality, most women don't get that. But I want you to hear me when I say this. That's a high level fantasy. When I say that, that means it ranks above a lot of your fantasies, because it's something that you've been thinking about since you were a child. And Hollywood has placed that image before you time and time again. So that's something that's major to you. That's something that's major to you. And a lot of times what happens is when you get into a relationship, you have this guy standing before you and he's saying, hey, listen, I want to be with you. I want you to have my children. He's saying everything that you want to hear. Or maybe he doesn't say, I want you to have my children. Either way, he leads you to believe, or you lead yourself to believe that, hey, he's going to be here. I'm going to have my fantasy with him. And the moment you tell him that you're pregnant, it doesn't pan out that way. Maybe he gets excited, or maybe he goes on the run. But ultimately, by the time the child turns 3, on average, the man is no longer a part of your life. The man is no longer a part of your life. And so what the enemy likes to do is he likes to get you into sin so that he could, and I hate to use this term, Satan wants to father your children. He's a father. The Bible calls him the father of all lies. Please hear me when I say this. He wants to father this devil is really slick. He wants to father your children. And the way that he does that is by getting in your son's ears or getting in your daughter's ears and saying, you're not good enough for your daddy. Your own daddy didn't want you. Look at what your daddy. That's the spirit of rejection that begins to harass a child. It's a spirit of rejection. And so when that child goes to school and they see a father walking with the daughter, bringing their daughter to school or bringing their son to school or what have you, and they say, I love you, daddy. The child who is doesn't have the Father, is sitting there, and that's something that eats away. Now, I want you to understand, Satan is very strategic. So year after year, day after day, this kid deals with this torment every single day of his life, or every single day of her life, because every time they go to school, they are reminded that their father chose not to be a part of their lives. Or if he is a part, he's barely ever there. They are constantly reminded. You got to understand, children do look at other kids and say, I wish I had that. I wish I had that. So the spirit of rejection comes and harasses that child. Not only does the spirit of rejection harass that child, the spirit of rejection begins to groom that child. It begins to groom that child. By the time the child gets older, the child is craving acceptance, because for whatever reason, we think that the cure for rejection is acceptance. So by the time the child gets older, the child is craving acceptance. And so the child goes out there and maybe tries to hang with some peers, but the peers are rejecting him. Tries to get around certain people, and those people are rejecting him. But then here comes this gang. Here comes this gang, or what have you, that is accepting of the child. It immediately makes me think of my nephew. Immediately makes me think of my nephew. Now, my nephew, growing up, we didn't truly know that he existed until he was 9 years old. I can't say we 100% didn't know. We just didn't think he was my brother's child. Let me explain. My brother met a young lady back in the day. And when he met this young lady, I remember, I went over to his house to, I don't remember what I was dropping by for, what have you. Maybe I was visiting. I never really sat in my brother's house and visited, or what have you, because my brother just always been a wild child. I was kind of, well, I have gone to his house a couple of times and sat down or what have you. But I went by his house and he had this young lady, and he had been dating her for 3 weeks. I remember at that time, and I was a young girl, but a young lady. So I get there, I see my brother, and I see the lady. I see the girlfriend. I speak to her, and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" She's a real pretty girl, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" or what have you. And she was. I remember that she was sitting on the counter. I remember that she was sitting on the counter in his apartment. And I spoke to her, and my brother was like, "This is my girl," and I'm like, "Yeah, nice to meet you." What have you. So when it was time for me to go, I didn't stay long because I didn't want to be a third wheel. Um, when it was time for me to go, I walked outside. She stayed in the apartment. My brother came behind me, and I asked my brother, I said, "How long have you known her?" He said, "3 weeks." I said, "She's pregnant." I just remember telling my brother that. I said, "She's pregnant." And he was like, "You think so?" I said, "Yeah, looking at her." So, quite frankly, I think the assumption that I had, and it wasn't that her stomach was showing or anything like that. I just felt that on her. I just felt like it was just this strong, like, I'm like, this girl is pregnant. And so once he was like, "Oh, where do you think she is?" I was like, "Yeah, I think she's pregnant." So obviously, I'm assuming that it can't be for my brother. If she's pregnant for my brother, maybe I shouldn't have picked it up like that or what have you. So long story short, not long after that, she announces that she's pregnant. Not long after that, she finds out that she's pregnant. She announces that she's pregnant. And my brother's like, you called it. I'm like, "Yeah, I told you she was pregnant. I don't know why I got that vibe off of her, but I felt like she was pregnant." And I never assumed that it wasn't his baby after she announced it, because it was like, and at that time when you're young and you in the world, you just think you got some type of special intuition or something like that. But I remember her and my brother had an extremely toxic relationship, extremely toxic, because both of them are toxic people. Neither one of them. She ain't no crazier than him. He ain't no crazier than her. They were both equally crazy, which made a toxic combo. And they fought like cats and lions. They fought like cats and dogs. Not well, no, it was like cats and lions. They fought pretty much every day. They were always doing some of the most toxic things to each other. When I say they were doing dirty stuff to each other, they had a relationship that was just straight up weird. So eventually they went ahead and they broke up or what have you. And of course, she was pregnant. She already had children, but her children were living with their father. They were living with their father. So she couldn't keep possession because her children had been taken by the state before and given to the father. So I don't think she could keep that child. I don't know. But long story short, they broke up like 4 or 5 months after they met. She was probably like 4 or 5 months pregnant when they broke up. And immediately, my mom and dad were still together at the time. I remember she called our house and my dad answered the phone. And my dad said, she asked my dad if we could give her money for an abortion. So she had to be about 3 months pregnant. But she asked for money for an abortion. And my dad told her that he didn't have any money. One, he said, two, and if I did, he was like, we don't believe it. He said, in this family, we don't believe in abortion. We don't believe in killing children or what have you. So not long after that, she called back because she felt comfortable talking to my dad. She called back and she told my dad, I have a confession. It's not your son's child. I'm going to have the baby, but it doesn't belong to your son. Given the fact that she got pregnant almost immediately after meeting him, it wasn't far fetched for us to believe her. Now, at first, we didn't believe her. We were like, you just mad at him because y'all done broke up or what have you. But then she just kept insisting. And she even said, oh, the child belongs to a firefighter. I remember that. She was like, he belongs, his daddy's a firefighter or what have you. So she was just, honestly, I understand her because she was just trying to get my brother to completely get out of her life. She's trying to get rid of my brother because they were both equally toxic or what have you. And I guess she just didn't want my family raising a child. So, long story short, she ended up putting the little boy up for adoption. She ended up putting him up for adoption. She told us and convinced us, well, we were absolutely convinced that wasn't his son. So, long story short, one particular day, 9 years later, the little boy is 9 years old. My mom goes to the health department, and my mom says she was sitting in the health department, and while she was sitting in there, she spots this little boy that he's in a waiting room. He's waiting for his mother or he's waiting for somebody. He's just sitting there, and he's looking at my mom, and my mom starts staring at him. And she was like, he was the exact replica of my brother. And she said, like a small version of my brother. And she fell instantly in love with him. Instantly fell in love with him. And she said she just wanted to go over and hug him. He just reminded her so much of my brother. And long story short, I got to stop saying long story short, but what ends up happening is we had already gotten word that, hey, that is his son. Even though we know the child had been adopted or what have you, everybody around town, because we lived in this small city, they were talking about it. They're like, oh, he looks identical to my brother. So my mom knew we found out who had adopted the little boy. She found out who had adopted him or what have you, who had custody of him. And when the lady came out, my mom knew her because my dad used to do her taxes. So when she came out of the back room of the health department and she got him by his hand, my mom said my mom jumped up out of her seat and she ran out the health department, ran up behind the lady, and she was like, hold up. She's like, and the lady looked, she said, yes, it's your son. Yeah. And my mom was like, I know, that's my grandson. So we start, and the lady, she was very kind. She was nice enough to let us start having immediate visitation. Like she would drop him off at our house so that and he is to this day, that little boy is my brother. He looked more like my brother than my brother looked like my brother. He is, when I say I've never seen somebody that is a literal twin, he is a twin of my brother. He is a twin of my brother. But the spirit of rejection grabbed a hold of him because one, he didn't have his real mother in his life. His real mother put him up for, adoption. He didn't have her in his life. And then my brother hadn't been a part of his life for 9 years. So the spirit of rejection was there harassing him, talking to him and what have you. So I remember when he came around, he started talking to me. He started telling me, he was like, I don't know why my mama don't want me. I don't know why my mama don't want me. And I was like, she wants you. She wants you. What have you. And I told him, I said, look, let me tell you something. I said, in all our honesty, and I hate to say this, I said, neither your mom nor your dad was stable enough to raise you. I said, so this was all God. This was all God saying, because the lady was Christian. She's an older woman. And I said, this was all God because I said, honestly, if you had been in their house, you would have been 3 shades of crazy. You would have been 3 shades of crazy. But that's what the enemy wants to do, is to utilize it. So he wanted to fit in so much at school. And I remember him coming and telling me, because he has this way about him that's similar to my brother. My brother has that Chris Tucker voice. My brother, when we were growing up, he had a few mannerisms that kind of seemed girly. So we used to make fun of him growing up, me and my sister. We were like, boy, you kind of, we used to call it funny and all that. He was like, man, I'm not, and he's not, he grew up and he grew out of a lot of that, but you could see that on his son still had that same issue. And I remember he came over to the house one day and he said, Auntie Tiffany, at my school, some of the kids call me gay. He said, I'm not gay, Auntie Tiffany. And he was like, I'm not gay. And I was like, I said, your daddy had the same issue, and don't worry about what those kids are saying or what have you. But he had a couple of kids that were trying to bully him. Y'all remember I use this term herding. This is what the enemy does: is he'll herd you. That means that once he takes a child through that process of rejection, he'll try to put that child in, or he'll try to drive that child into a mindset or into a clique or relationship or what have you. So he ends up coming to me, and I remember he said to me, he said, Auntie Tiffany, it's a couple of kids that be trying to fight him at school. And I'm not gonna lie, I was like, spank them. I was like, ignore them, tell the teacher, follow protocol. But if they keep testing you, sometimes you gotta spank them. Sometimes you gotta you gotta go and take one of them out. You gotta go and knock them out, or what have you. Wrong advice at the time. But I told him, don't involve yourself with other kids, because I can see what the enemy was trying to do. What the enemy wanted to do was, the enemy was about to send him into a bunch of, to join a gang in an attempt to get protection. This is what happens to a lot of guys. They join gangs. Thank you, Sister Ebony. God bless you, sis. God bless you. But they join gangs, or they join gang-like cliques in an attempt to get protection. And that's exactly what he did. Probably 2 weeks later, we get a call from the woman that was raising him, essentially his mother. And she was like, y'all need to talk to him. He getting in trouble in school. He doing this, he doing that. And when I talked to him, he told me, yeah, he's hanging with some guys, but that's for his protection. I'm like, you're gonna have to trust God to protect you. But he went over into the spirit of rebellion. So what I'm telling that story for is showing you the ascension. He kept going deeper and deeper into rebellion, because that's what the enemy does, is he uses the spirit of rejection. And once that person is dealing with rejection, a lot of times what he does is he'll harass them about the fact that their parents are not around, your daddy don't love you, your mama don't love you, or what have you. And then what he does is he will continue to harass that child using other children, until he drives that child into something that the child shouldn't be a part of. And so this is what I suspect for a lot of today's celebrities. These are, and I hate to say this, these are fatherless children. These are grown children who are going out here, who are selling their souls to the devil. Because one of the things that people have a tendency to believe when it comes to rejection is that the spirit of rejection, what it does is it masters his voice in your life to the point where you think it's you talking. It speaks to you more than you think. It speaks to you more than you think to yourself, more than you speak to yourself. It constantly keeps speaking. And so one of the things that the spirit of rejection will say to you is, they will regret what they did to you. Because one day you're going to be rich, you're going to be powerful, and it will play these fantasies. This is why God says, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. What if you don't cast that down? You got these young men who are likely not saved. They don't know to cast those thoughts down. So when the thought comes, they've been living with this voice for several decades. When that voice comes and it says, you know what, they talked about you, they tried to fight you, they did this, they did that, but you know what's going to happen is you're going to go to the top, you're going to be super famous. And those people, they begin to pursue that. Now, I'm going to tell you something as a business owner. When you're building a business, it ain't nothing easy to do. It's not anything you're building. When you write a book, it's not easy, because you can write a book and you post a book up to Facebook and you say, hey guys, check out my new book. You'll get 300 likes. But of those 300 likes, only 3 people will come and buy your book. You'll have people writing, congratulations, proud of you, but only 3 of those people are on there. So I'm saying that in the world of business, you have to be diligent. You have to be consistent. It can take years or decades for you to begin to see a turnaround on your investment. It will happen if you faint not, if you're consistent. But you have these young guys, and I want you to understand, the music industry, I worked in the music industry before. these young guys in the music industry, and the music industry basically tells them by the time you hit 30, you're pretty much almost ready to retire. As a matter of fact, when you're 30, and this is what a lot of rappers do. A lot of rappers, when they're in their 20s, they're trying to get signed to major labels like Universal Records. And if they don't get signed, as they near their 30s, many of them go into panic and they'll go ahead and start their own record label. They'll go ahead and start their own record label so they can sign themselves and they can sign other artists or what have you. Because the goal is they know that, okay, by the time I turn 30, my career could potentially be over. But they really genuinely believe in themselves. But here's the enemy. Here comes the enemy, and he places it on their hearts. Hey, why don't you sell your soul to me? Why don't you sell your soul to me? I'll give you riches. I'll give you fame. I'll give you glory. I'll give you all of these things if you sell your soul to me. If you sell your soul. This guy, Young Soldier, said he got the offer 2 times before he accepted it. He got the offer 2 times before he accepted it. But one of the things, and I have to be mindful that somebody may be watching this who is thinking of selling your soul for riches and fame and for marriage. It's not worth it. One of the things I want to remind you is that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein. Satan can promise you riches. He can promise you a lot of things, and he can give you that stuff. But God says when God bless you, when Yahweh blesses you, he will add no sorrow to it. This man is talking about he's dealing with anxiety because anytime the enemy blesses you, which is not a blessing, it's a curse. Anytime the enemy gives you something, there is depression that comes with it, is suicidal thoughts, there are broken families, and he gets your children into a contract. So your children have to get out of that contract. If they don't get out of it, many times they start losing their lives really young. They're dealing with mental health issues. They're dealing with demons. Half of these folks that, you may have a child that they say, oh, the child is crazy. The child ain't crazy. The child probably got a demonic contract that came from your side of the family or the father's side of the family. Or if it's a guy, it could come from the mother's side of the family. It could come from the mother's side of the family. These are demonic spirits. And if those contracts are not annulled, if those contracts are not dealt with, they continue on until, catch this, until the contract is fulfilled. Now, Satan is a liar and a deceiver. Remember, I told you that contracts have small print. Most people are not aware of this. Thank you. I am Clay. God bless you. Most people are not aware of this. Contracts have small print. They're very similar to the contracts you can go get. Let's say if you're getting a loan, you're not going to read that small print. I've gotten loans before. You are not going to read. It is just too much text. Most of the time when you go to get a loan, when I was in that state of mind, I was desperate for the money. I was desperate. I didn't care. I didn't realize when you get that loan, you are selling your soul. You're leasing it out for a little while until you pay off that debt. That's in the Bible. Okay. Your soul is your mind, will, and emotions. We got it. We have to establish that. This is why you deal with depression, paying it back. This is why you deal with anxiety when the time comes. You're selling you are, and I'm trying not to get too far into the legal part of it because if we legalistically speaking, you genuinely cannot truly sell your soul, but you can, in a sense, lease your soul. All right. Give me a second. Let me see if I can. Is this good, y'all? Or am I all over the place today? Because I done got into this speed mode. And once I get into that speed mode, it's hard to get me out of it. Awesome. Thank you. All right, Proverbs 6. Proverbs 6. My son, if you have put up security for your neighbor, have given a pledge for a stranger, if you are snared in the words of your mouth, caught in the words of your mouth, then do this, my son, and save yourself, for you have come into the hand of your neighbor. Go hasten and plead urgently with your neighbor. Give your eyes no sleep, and your eyelids no slumber. Save yourself like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the hand of the fowler. And so this is which version is this? I think this is the English Standard Version. But it's surety, shaking your hand, and I think the King James version uses the word surety. If you've given yourself as surety, matter of fact, let me pull it up. My son, if thou be surety for a friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, if thou art snared by the words of your mouth. This is dealing with the term debt. If you owe debt to somebody, this is what this is dealing with. It's dealing with debt. If you have ensnared your soul, my son, if thou be surety for my son, if thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared by the words with the words of thy mouth, thou art taken by the words of thy mouth. Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself. God is saying, deliver yourself. This is why, and I'm going to put this out here, and I know it's going to offend people, but I have to tell you the truth. It is not the will of God for you to go into debt. That is actually, you're not supposed to do that. Y'all know that, right? Y'all know you're not supposed to get credit card loans, right? You do know that. Okay. The Bible says, be anxious for nothing. Be anxious for nothing. So one of the things I remember, I got my deliverance. God used my ex basically to take me through that level of deliverance, because I used to go get loans for everything. I had couches, that's how I was raised. I was raised to put everything up for surety. I was raised to do that kind of stuff. I grew up, I literally have stories of my dad. I grew up, I had no concept of stewardship. I had none, no concept of it. My dad, we used to get these cards in the mail, and they had that no shipping if mailed in USA, what have you. And it was this stuff like you can order. And how many of you guys remember this? You could order Time Life books. It was like Mysteries of the Unknown and stuff like that. And we used to get these cards, and you can sign the cards. It used to be a stack of cards that came to our house like once a month. A stack of cards. They were like flyers. And my dad, we used to sit at the table with my dad and sign those cards. I'm glad, because sometimes I'd be like, where the people at? I know that ain't no false memory. I remember that. We used to sit there at the table. My dad would look at the back to see, and he would see no shipping if mailed in USA, and it says buy now, pay later, or something like that. We had every Time Life book there was. We never paid for that stuff. We didn't pay my dad. Daddy, I love you, but you were wrong. He had us sitting up there, and we were just like, and I remember being 8 years old, sitting at the table with him, helping him fill. I used to do it all the time. And I used to be proud, because when you're a little girl, you always want your dad's affection and attention. So I would be real proud sitting at the table and filling it out like a grown-up. And then daddy gets stuff in the mail, and I almost felt like I had got it from my dad. Dad, your books came. And we were tamed, we were taught. We knew what to do with the bill. That's messed up. We knew what to do with the bill. When we went to the mailbox, and I'm trying not to grab any mail from over here because I don't want my address, but we went to the mailbox, we got the bill. If we went to the mailbox, we look at it, okay, trash. We knew to throw it away. My dad had already taught us, throw this away. We were raised like that. And so my ex, when the first time I was married, back when I was silly, first time, both of us came from that same type of background. Our credit score was in the 500s. I believe my credit score probably reached the 400s at some point. We used to sit in places and laugh. Now, y'all, I was barely saved. You got to understand, I met this man when I just started going through the salvation process. I had been deep in the world. But we used to sit in the loan office, and I remember one particular time we went to get some furniture. And of course, we were trying to get it on credit. And I remember we could hear the printer going off. They told us to wait. We could hear the printer, and that thing was going off for like 5 minutes. And I remember him nudging me. And he used to do this all the time. He's like, that's your credit report right there. I'm like, no, that's yours. They went an extra 2 more minutes. That's your credit report. That's your credit report. Jacked up. Of course, that relationship was ungodly. And I had a curse on my life. I had a generational curse that I hadn't fully walked out of yet. So when I came out of that marriage, I jumped straight into another one. Jumped straight into another one because I was silly. But this guy was from Cameroon, and he had a different view of money. He had a different view. So I remember, I used to sit there and cry about us not having any furniture. When we moved to Florida, I'm like, let's go down there and finance. And he was like, if we cannot afford it cash, we will not have it. And I was like, what? And I told y'all, to my brothers and sisters from Africa, forgive me, I was ignorant back then. I had never really gone anywhere. All I knew about Africa was what I saw on TV. And I was like, you used to sitting on the ground. No, I'm not. I used to sit there and be like, you used to sit on the floor. I'm not. Because I was mad at him because he had a job. And I was like, why can't we just go down here to the furniture place? Why we sleeping on an air mattress? Why we sitting up over here? We ain't even got a bean bag up in there. Why we ain't got nothing? But he had his mind made up. And I can truly say God used him in that to take me through that deliverance. Because I came to understand he did not back down to me crying. My African brothers, y'all know y'all can be stubborn. Y'all a lot more stubborn than American guys. I can say that much. But he did not back down and be crying, whining, or what have you. He was like, I don't care. You can cry. If we don't have cash, we're not buying it. We will buy it when we have the money for it. And so what ended up happening was, long story short, he came home one day. He was like, are you ready? We will go and get the bed today. And I'm like, oh, cool. Then I got a little money up and I bought the mattresses for the bed. I called myself surprised when we come back home another day. Hello. It didn't take long at all, Sister Dastas. But it didn't take long at all. Matter of fact, I think it took a few months. I would have put myself in debt for several years, but he was like, no, if we can't afford it. And I can honestly say we went and looked at a bed. And I remember it was like $299. And when we went back to buy the bed, it went on sale for $199. God was all up in there. I was like, look at you, God. But we ended up with a furnished house, and we ended up, the only bills we had, like he wouldn't even buy a car on credit. He did not believe in buying a car on credit. Thank you, Legacy. God bless you. He did not believe in buying a car on credit. He was like, we must have the cash. And I'm just like, okay, hold up. You ain't got no money in your account. If I ain't had none of mine. And I remember going off on him. He was like, as long as it can get us from point A to point B. I said, you are not going to have me riding around here in a raggedy car. I'm like, you're not going to have me do, just so you can save some money. I'm like, you're not about to have me. But he ended up saving up $6,000. And he went to, well, the first time he didn't save up $6,000. The first time he saved up like $3,000. And we end up going to this auction to get a car. And at the auction, it didn't work out. Matter of fact, he got taught a valuable lesson at the auction. He completely removed me from the process. That's a whole other story. But he ended up getting a car. I was trying to point another car, but he was insistent. And he was extremely prideful. So I stood at the auction, man. I just like this. But that car was, man, we pulled it off the auction lot. It was you could not take it back. Even after when we started pulling off the lot, it was smoking. We had to park it at a gas station and have a tow truck company come get it. Cost $1,400 to fix that car. Cost $1,400, and it still wasn't fully fixed. And then one day, took it out in the park. Took it out. He had that car a few months before it was stolen. And not only was it stolen, the people that stole it tried to use it. I guess it wasn't good enough of a car. It was a decent looking car. It was a Chrysler though, Lord. But I guess it didn't look good enough. So the people who stole the car, they drove it to the airport and tried to crash it through the fence to go to one of those, I think it was Enterprise rent a car. It was at the airport. They were trying to crash through the fence so they can go in the middle of the night to steal a car from Enterprise rent a car. So they didn't really want his car. They didn't really want his car. So they just decided to use his car as a pawn so it was messed up. It was total. They completely messed it up. They even left their shirt in the car. They were so frustrated. They left the car with a brick in it. They bust the windows out with a brick. They left the brick up in the car. They left their shirt in the car. What have you. So, right, they sacrificed the car. And I was like, that's what you get for you cutting me out the complete process of what have you, talking about that's your car and all that. That's what you get. So the second time when he saved $6,000, he knew, he's like, don't let me cut you out of this process. Okay. Or what have you. And so we went and got a car. He would not get a car on credit. And so that was the first time in my life, my absolute life, not having to deal with bill collectors. Thank you, Sister Kira. God bless you, sis. That was the first time in my life I had never experienced that before. I had always dealt with bill collectors over the course of my life. And you may say, Tiffany, what happened to all those bills that you talked about? You had a 500 credit score. Supernatural deliverance, y'all. That 7-year thing, it actually kicked in. I didn't have a job, and one particular day, right after me and this man broke up, so when I say I didn't have a job, I mean that my name wasn't in the system, my social security number wasn't in the system, nothing. I was untraceable, untrackable, period, point blank. But it fell off my credit report, all of it, including a foreclosed home, repossessed vehicles. That's how jacked up I was. I'm trying to show you my mindset back then was completely different than my mindset right now. I am genuinely a new creature in Christ because I believe in hitting those bills first and foremost, like get rid of them. But I say all that to say it is never the will of God for you to go into debt. It is never the will of God because you are essentially selling your soul. Selling your soul doesn't mean that you're going to go to hell. It doesn't mean that you're going to hell. What it means is that you're selling your mind, your will, and your emotions. That's what it is. You're selling your mind, the ability for your mind to be healthy and a function for you to really have your own will, your own thoughts, and your emotions. That's what you're selling. That's what you're selling. Young soldier talked about he's been dealing with anxiety. He hasn't been happy since because now what he did was he invited in a demonic presence. So now he feels that demonic presence. So he doesn't have the ability to say, hey, I want to be happy because now he sold himself. Ultimately, again, his soul belongs to God. Now, because he sold his soul, if he doesn't go get delivered, he's going to be miserable on this thing called earth. And 9 times out of 10, the enemy will take him out early. And if he's not saved, which we know he's not, he will bust hell wide open. That's the reality. That's the reality. And for what? For fame. And anytime you sell your soul for fame, let me tell you what you're doing. You are literally making an agreement with the devil. You're just basically telling the devil, I'll go pervert these people and help you to send them to hell. And all you're doing is making me famous. You make me famous and I'll go deceive these people. That's what you're doing because you can't sell your soul and sell gospel music. No, you think the devil gonna let you? No, you're gonna have to go out here unless you make some type of agreement to come up and pretend. But true worship stomps his head. I'm saying that to say, guys, you got to be very mindful. And one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure that your children. Thank you, Sister Don. God bless you, sis. You want to make sure that your children are not under a demonic contract from your family because it could be generations. I've been spending the last 2 weeks. I've been doing nothing but deliverance. I've been doing a lot of deliverance for the last 2 weeks, and most of the times we're having to deal with contracts. Most of the times we're dealing with demonic contracts. So, could young soldier? Could he be delivered? Yes, he could. Could that contract be rescinded? Could it be destroyed? Could it be annihilated? Yes. But in order to destroy that particular contract, 9 times out of 10, remember Jesus said this kind comes out by fasting and prayer. That deals with a legality in a lot of cases. 9 times out of 10, in order for him to get out of that contract, 1, he's going to have to get saved. He's going to have to get saved. And then 2, he'll likely have to fast and go through deliverance. The deliverance minister will have to likely, when a person makes that type of agreement, because when you're in the ministry of deliverance, you see different types of manifestations. Typically, people who play with witchcraft, which is what he did, people who play with witchcraft typically have the worst, they have the loudest, most violent deliverances. They have the loudest, most violent deliverances because whenever they start going through deliverance, they have surrendered their will to the enemy. And so the enemy is strong in them because the enemy has usurped their authority. Oftentimes the enemy is stronger than them. The enemy is in them, but it has usurped their authority. So it is stronger than them. And so consequently, when they drag themselves and they decide, let me repent, and they come to get saved. Thank you, Georgianne. God bless you, sis. God bless you. But when they come to get saved, what then happens is they typically, you will see them boom, boom, boom. And I've seen them just all over the place. I've seen them at church. A lot of times people, for example, they even come into our church. For those of you who are in the Atlanta area, Embassy Church, come in and get free. Don't just come in there thinking that you're going to come up there and get free, then you're going to walk away and go back home and do what you want to do. That ain't how that works. But people who play with witchcraft, yes, you see them have some of the loudest, most violent deliverances. They have some of the loudest, most violent deliverances. These are people, they'll go to flipping over tables, and people got to hold them, and they'll try to run or what have you. And it's because what they have done is they have sold their soul. I got to get you guys to understand that they have sold their soul to the enemy. So there's a legality present when you come into a four-wall church or what have you. A lot of times, sometimes you won't have manifestations that the church knows that, hey, no, this right here is going to need long time. Like, this is not going to take place on a Sunday in a few minutes. This is not going to take place. The full deliverance process. Thank you, Sister Lindsay. God bless you. The full deliverance process. Yeah, you're going to need you need extensive deliverance. You need extensive deliverance. There are many cases when it happens because people are going out here and they're selling their souls for fame and for riches, for glory. They're selling their souls. They're making an agreement with the devil. Now, talking about this guy, what's his name again? Give me a second. Is it Young Dolph? Somebody. I'll tell you. Okay. Give me a second. Young Dolph. Okay. Young Dolph. He was killed this week. Was it last week? He was killed. He went to a cookie shop and somebody came outside the cookie shop, shot in the shop, and killed him. Remember, I told you that the devil don't even like you. You can serve him. This is why it's stupid to be in a cult. It's stupid to be a witch. It's stupid to get into those type of things because that same devil that uses you hates your guts. The same devil that uses you hates your guts and is plotting, is stinking. I can't wait to take him out. I can't wait to take her out. I can't wait to destroy them. But I'm using them. They are useful now. But the minute the devil decides that you are no longer useful to him, he will kill you. These people go and they make these deals with the devil, and that same demon that's in them will incite somebody else to kill them. That wasn't no godly angel that came and killed them. That's what you would call friendly fire. That's fire coming from the same side that you're serving. It's fire. It's coming from the same side that you're serving. Why? Let me tell you something about a demonic contract. There's small print on the contract. I can't say that enough. Most of the time, we don't read the small print. Here's the thing. When you make an agreement with the devil, Satan's design or his goal is not to get you to successfully fulfill that contract. He wants to use it to trip you up. Because that little small print that you don't read, that small print may say you got to do this and you got to do that. And if you don't do this, this is the penalty. You don't know that. No, I'm not into witchcraft. I cast it out. You don't know. You don't know what you're playing with. These people are going out here and they're making deals with the devil, but they don't know that this same devil, God placed enmity between him and man, hates their guts. And he will sacrifice them. Because understand, anytime the devil kills his own, it's ritualistic. So he can release the spirit of murder all the way in the earth so that he can grow his empire. Because you know what happens when rappers like Young Dolph and a lot of these rappers are killed? I hate to say it, what it does is it sets the stage for and I hate to say it, other rappers. It gives them hope. because what they see is an empty seat. They see an opportunity. They see a throne that no longer has a king sitting on it. Whereas if they were in the Memphis, Tennessee area, they felt like they couldn't get to the top. Now they feel like, well, let me go get my CD. Let me go get my stuff together. And that same devil that tempted them would come and tempt those young men again. You sell your soul. And it's typically when you put in all that work and effort. Like I said, I've been in business for a long time, and I can tell you it takes a lot of work. It is not for the weak. Not for the weak at heart. Being an entrepreneur is not for the weak at heart. It's even true in the music industry. I've worked with musicians, and some of them are incredibly talented. But the music industry is rigged. And so it's not easy. It doesn't matter how talented you are. This is why half of the celebrities are whack. Right, I know. I already mentioned he was independent. But that's why half of these celebrities are whack. Their music is not that good. Yet and still, they go and make a deal with the enemy. Because after you put your blood, sweat, and tears, and that's still not enough, when you put all of that in there and you believe so wholeheartedly, you've thrown everything that you can into your craft and into your gift, a lot of times, all you got left is your soul. Because you done gave everything else. All you got left is your soul. That's it. And that's what the enemy is waiting on. Again, it's not that you're selling your soul, whereas God no longer owns it. Remember, I used the example in the beginning. When it comes to real estate in America, you can never truly own real estate in America. You don't own it. You have the illusion of owning it. You can go buy a house and you're in that house or what have you, but the reality is the land that house is on, you literally cannot buy it. The government is going to make you pay taxes on that house for the rest of your life. And then when you die, your kids better pick it up and pay taxes. If you have no kids and you got a house and you ain't got no spouse and you got a house and you don't sign that house over to anybody, that house is going to become property of the government. You cannot own it. And it's the same thing when it comes to your soul. It's the same thing when it comes to your soul. You have the illusion of owning your soul, but the reality is you don't really own it. God gives you will. He gives you possession of your soul. You get to make decisions. You get to choose right from wrong. But your decisions will determine where you spend eternity. Your decisions will determine your mental health while you're here on the face of this planet. Those decisions do matter. And what then happens again is once you leave your body, your spirit goes back, and your spirit and your soul goes before God. God ultimately owns your spirit. He owns your soul. And so God is going to he's going to speak. And here's the thing. God, and I want to go ahead and give us a little bit of deliverance when it comes to Judgment Day. Because I know a lot of times when we imagine Judgment Day, we imagine that God is going to be sitting on the throne and then he's going to be kind of looking through our sins and he's going to be like, yep, that's too much. And then we'll be able to negotiate with him and all that. That's not how Judgment Day looks. Judgment is already declared in God's word. Judgment is already declared in God's word. That means God's word won't return to him void. He doesn't have to say a word. His word has already judged you. You have no special circumstances. There are no special circumstances. So there is, okay, I'll tell you, because this is how humans have a tendency to think. Anytime I host anything where I'm having people to do something, what have you, like I could say this for an example, and I hope you ladies don't mind, but my Esther Prep students, I have them writing a book. That's what the Lord placed on my heart. Esther Prep, they're writing a book. They should be done today. Today's the last day. Matter of fact, they got to turn their books on today. We have over 100 students. We had about 20 resignations when I gave that assignment. Had about 20 resignations. So a lot of the people, when you give them a responsibility, when you give them an assignment of that magnitude, so it wasn't even about the resignations. It's the excuses that I saw. It's the things that people do to get out of having any measure of responsibility. People go really low in order for them to not have to fulfill their side of a responsibility. And my thing is this: if I'm going to mentor you, you're gonna have to let me mentor you. You cannot come in and you can't force me to mentor you the way you want to be mentored. I'm not. I can't serve you. I serve the Most High God. But when it comes down to that kind of stuff, I saw people making all types of excuses. The most common excuse, forgive me for saying this, but the most common excuse that people, and this is something they did in my writers classes, and I'm not talking about the students now, but I've hosted remnant writers classes for years. I've helped hundreds of people to write their books, if not thousands, to write their books. And I've seen every excuse underneath the sun. The most common excuse that I get is somebody sick or dying. Most common. I've seen it a ton of times. People will go to the debt. They'll go to the pit to get out of responsibility. And I'm like, well, you still got to pay the fine. You still got to pay this. You still got to pay that. You say, wow, Tiffany, that's cruel. Because if somebody's going through, no, if you're on social media, you're perfectly fine. It's just what people will do to get out of doing what they're supposed to do. It's what people do. It's human nature. I won't even say it's human nature. It's manipulation. It's the wiles that people pick up over the course of their lives that they have to vomit up. It's stuff that has to come up and out of people before they can really tap into the favor and the blessings of God. And now, granted, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everybody. I'm saying there are probably I can probably say there probably about 2 or 3 of them that had actual realistic times where you're like, okay, I get it. This is fresh. This is something that's happening, or what have you. But the majority of the time, no, these are just people making excuses. It's what people do. This is when you're in business, if you are a teacher in school, if you are a professor and you give a college paper, you already know what I'm talking about. It's what people do. They'll try to bring you under guilt and shame in an attempt with your spirits. They will use spirits to control you. Because how can you go and say, well, you just said somebody's in a hospital. How can you go and say to a person, you still got to do it? Because then they say, you're an awful person, but you're all over social media. You posting up and you can write. You can write. What I want to say in closing, guys, is this. It is possible to get into a demonic contract. I will say that a large majority of people are under a demonic contract as we speak. A large majority of people are under a demonic contract as we speak. And when people get under these demonic contracts, they are completely oblivious to what they're truly selling. Ultimately, you're going to go before God to be judged, and a lot of these people are going to go spend eternity in hell. And in the world of business, there is a such thing as what was the word for that? It was just on the tip of my tongue. I'll say it this way: an imbalanced transaction. I want you to hear this. Do me a favor, like and share. I see we got a lot of people, but make sure you do me a favor, like and share. Do me a favor, like and share. Like and share. Let's get these numbers up. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. But there's a such thing in the world of business called an imbalanced transaction. That's like, and people have tried that with me plenty of times. That's like somebody comes to me and they say, hey, Tiffany, I need a website. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they said, but can we barter? I'm not into bartering, but what you got? I'll do your hair. Hold up. What do? I do braids. I can do your hair. And I go on their website and they do hair. And the style I want is $180. And they're saying, I want a 10-page website. That's an imbalanced transaction. I would never make a deal like that. Because in that, the person is saying, hey, I'll do your hair. But they're asking for something that's going to cost several $1,000s. And they want to get it for $180. That's what it looks like to sell your soul. That's what it looks like to go to hell. On the face of this planet, I want you to hear me when I say this. On the face of this planet, we only have about 120 years or less. Most people are not going to live to see 120. We know that most people live to about 80 or 90 or what have you. Hell is eternal. And hell is not even because there's no rest in hell. There are no celebrities in hell. Oh, they there. The people that were celebrities on earth are there, but they're not celebrities in hell. How can you worship somebody? They're not in a better position than you in hell. They over there getting fried. Hell will be cast into the lake of fire, which means that hell is not just a place. It's going to be cast into the lake of fire. You can find that in the book of Revelations. That's the eternal trash can for demons and devils. That's the eternal trash can for Satan and those who worship the enemy. That's the eternal trash can. And it's nowhere near worth it. So ultimately, even Satan has to go before God. And he's already judged. Hell was created for Satan and his angels. That's what hell was created. It was created for Satan and his angels. What we have to learn on this earth is that that's an imbalanced transaction. There is no wealth or fame or riches or glory that one is going to satisfy the spirit of rejection. Because rejection constantly says, more, more. This is what demons do. More, more. They have the appetite of hell. More, more. They have the appetite of fire. More, more. You can throw paper and fire, eat it up and say more, 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 more. It'll push. And it'll keep on taking it, keep taking it, keep taking it. You know what? At some point you realize this is very similar to, let's say, a man who has a demon of lust. There is no way to satisfy that demon. Did y'all hear what I said? Demon, man or female, who has a demon of lust. There is no way, there's no earthly way to satisfy that demon. So that person can get married, get into a relation, get married to somebody, and that woman think, I should be able to, I should be able to satisfy him. I'm gonna be everything that he wants. I'm gonna buy every wig, every color wig. I'm gonna learn to do all these crazy things with my makeup. You know what? I'm gonna learn that makeup that make you look like a different person, so he can feel like he get a different person from time to time. That'll be his reward. I'm gonna go up in there and I'm gonna come out as this celebrity, because you can do makeup like that where you can look like celebrities. I'm gonna come out as Beyonce one day. I'm gonna come out as, and if he make me mad, I'm gonna come out as Flavor Flav. I mean, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna put my makeup on. I'm gonna do all of these things and stuff like that. But what you come to understand is that there is no satisfaction for that demon. You can't. And the more you feed it, the hungrier it gets. The more you feed it, the hungrier it gets. You come in that room and you done all of that stuff. You got all the sex toys. Your room maybe look like a dungeon, stripper pole, or what have you. You done poked and shot the man. You done elbowed him. You done did everything on the face of this planet, trying to make him happy, trying to make him. It's not enough. It's not enough. He's still gonna cheat on you. He's still gonna cheat on you. Be out there, because that's a spirit, and spirits don't have a mechanism to say you're full. They don't have a mechanism. You can go up in there, you can choke him. I remember I started working at a dealership, and thank you, Sister Danielle. God bless you, sis. God bless you. Love you. But I was working at a dealership, and I was working there with my ex, and that's a whole other story. I was mad at that time because that dealership, I only worked there for 13 days. They literally was harassing, because they would pull me to the side. The managers would pull me to the side and be like, "Oh, we got your hubby going out on, he went to do a test drive with some really beautiful women," and I was like, "Okay, like, how does that make you feel?" I'm like, "It's his job. What do I care?" But I said they made me mad because they literally would not let us stand together. They were like, so it was crazy because we literally were able to huddle. So it would always be a huddle of people over there and like me off by myself, or a huddle of people over here with me and him off by. So we were the only people they were trying to control in that thing. But I remember this one girl that worked there. The girl was a straight freak. She was a straight freak, and she was talking about how she had her boyfriend, and she was like, and she had that voice. She was like, he likes to choke me. I like to be choked. And she told me that he wasn't into it at first. She said, "But I don't know. I like." She said, "The more a man choke me, I'm like, you trying to die? No, girl, you should try it. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I don't want somebody choking me and having sex with me." And she was like, "Girl," I said, "Okay." And I say that because she used to stand there like she would go over there and tell it to my ex. She'd be like, "You don't choke your wife." She was she admittedly had taken her guy from somebody. She was like, she took him. He had a wife or what have you. She took him from his wife or his girlfriend or what have you. But she was like, "You don't choke it." She's like, "Y'all should try it sometimes." And I'm like, okay. First and foremost, I don't know, cause yeah, you probably, yeah, I don't know what happened to your okay, but yeah, no, that ain't happening. Cause I don't know, maybe you lost your ability to please a man through all that sex. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The walls of Jericho came down. Maybe you lost your ability. And now you got to get into choking and all that other stuff. But no. Because I don't know if you know, men do get carried away doing sex. They do. They get carried away. They can get carried away. And forget that they choking you and choke your tail out and not even know that you deceased right there on that bed. Don't even know that you didn't died. You didn't gave up the ghost because they didn't got carried away. They having a good time. I'm like, well, okay, we're gonna move on from there. We're gonna move on from there because I can get silly into that. But what was I saying that story for? Because good gosh, what was I telling that story for? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It's not even worth it, y'all. It's not even worth it. So I got to get ready to close. But one of the things I just want to leave you guys with is this. Right, that demon. Okay, thank you, thank you. Lust is never satisfied. Thank you, thank you. You can't satisfy it. Demons have the appetite of hell. They'll never say that's enough. Never. They'll never say that's good enough. They'll never say, well done, good and faithful servant. They'll never say that. Demons gonna always say more. They're gonna have blood around their mouth and they'll be like, more, 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 more. What's your contract say? Because you're getting on my nerves. More, bring me more souls. More. And the minute that you don't serve that enemy, he'll kill you. He'll kill you. A lot of premature death is just demonic contracts. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I think it's, I don't even necessarily know, I can't even say it's bad news because I'm saying that I think it's good news for those of you who may be dealing with, you may see a pattern of death in your family. What have you. The good news is that that can be eradicated. The good news is that can be eradicated. Thank you for reminding me. I was supposed to launch that, and you know what? I'm gonna have to launch it. So I'm gonna make a commitment to y'all. I'm gonna make a commitment to you guys. I'm gonna commit to coming on here tomorrow and launching the 2.0 course for you guys to go ahead and register for it. I'm gonna commit to that. And if I don't do it, then I'm gonna have to let 5 of y'all in for free. I ain't letting nobody in for free. So I'm just making that commitment for those of you. And that way, once I make a commitment or what have you, I know that I'm gonna honor it. It kind of sounds like a contract itself. Let me make sure I get that done because I ain't making no promise. That's just me saying that. Okay. But this is something that the enemy has a tendency to do. The enemy is always trying to get you in a contractual agreement. And many of you, generationally speaking, your family has been under a contract. And you may say, Sister Tiffany, how do I know if my family's under a demonic contract? Spirit of divorce moves through your family like crazy. You got Jezebel in your family, dominant, controlling people. There is disease that probably runs through your family. People constantly going to prison. The women can't get married. If they do get married, they're constantly going through divorce. You may see abortions and miscarriages. You see a lot of chaos. Addiction runs in your family. Those are typically the signs that somebody entered a demonic contract at some point in your generational lineage. And that person, and it was common, and they still do it to this day, which is the stupidest thing. But God said, my people perish for lack of knowledge. Is because they don't know any better. I've had people in witchcraft to argue with me. I've had witches to come on my channel and try to tell me I didn't know what I was talking about. And it's like, okay, I could only wish that God would to give them a new heart, a new mind. Number one. Number two is God would give them insight into the spirit realm to see that. Because the only information they have is that in which Satan has told them. That's it. And Satan is what? A liar. He's a father of all lies. He's a deceiver. This is what he does. This is what he does. He lies and he deceives because he wants to use people. He has to use people to access other people. Satan is terrified of the prophet. Satan is terrified of the prophet coming into the earth because the prophet is going to prophesy his own destruction. The prophet is setting the stage for his end. So he's trying to stop that from happening. I've already told you guys that before. And so he has to find people who are desperate, people who want something, people who are broken, people who he's attacked and traumatized. And he has to tempt them into witchcraft. Why don't you use your gift for me? Instead of using it for the church, instead of you going into the church and getting your healing, getting your deliverance, getting counseling, instead of you doing that, instead of you being used by God to prophesy, how about this? Let me use you and I'll pay back all of your enemies. Wait, hold up. You're going to pay back a bunch of enemies that you sent them against me. Did y'all hear that? You the one sent them against me. You sent them against me. You had them to attack me. And now you're going to sit here and tell me that you're going to pay them back? Aren't they your agents? Aren't they your agents? Sister Stephanie, you would want to list all the context because water can have a lot of different meanings, but the context of the dream will tell you whether or not it's demonic or what have you. I would say check out Sister Tamara Hicks. She does a lot of dream interpretations. Aren't they your agents? Why? So you're telling me that you sent these people out to molest me, to hurt me, to do all of that, take me through all of that trauma, and then you're going to go behind their back and come tell me I'll take them out for you. I'll punish them. That's how loyal he is to you. Pregnant in water sounds like marine spirit husband. The pregnancy is a demonic pregnancy. That's typically what that means. It would likely mean that you're in need of deliverance. When you say water is typically dealing with marine spirits in that type of case. When you're dreaming that you're pregnant, especially if you're not married, that's usually the sign of a spirit spouse. And spirit spouses do create what we call, when I'm doing deliverance on people, I terminate demonic pregnancies. I terminate them, what have you. And demons have spoken out and said, you killed my kids. It's the funniest thing. But it's the thing. How is it that the enemy is telling me I'm gonna go and I'll get your enemies for you? This is the crazy thing. And you know what? He means it in some cases. He'll go to attack the same people he used to hurt you. Yeah, you probably have a marine mermaid. And that would deal with a contract. When anytime you hear the term mermaid or merman, that deals with a contract. That deals with a demonic contract in most cases. And somebody made a covenant with the underworld kingdom, with the demonic. Somebody made a covenant with the marine kingdom. Snakes represent demonic spirits and dreams. I'll say this, and I'm going to give you guys, because I know I took my stuff down for deliverance and what have you, because I've been booked up for the last couple of weeks or what have you. I'll tell you this. If you're looking for deliverance and you need it, and I can't say now because I can't tell you how hasty or how I can't tell you what his schedule looks like, but I would tell you, and I'm going to type his name in. Well, the moderator's on here. Type in Apostle Ivory Hopkins. If somebody can get his website link, it's Pilgrim's Rest. But just type in on Google Ivory Hopkins Pilgrim's Rest. He does deliverance. He does Skype deliverance. He's one of the generals of deliverance. He's really powerful in the ministry of deliverance. But y'all go ahead and start dealing with these contracts. Don't wait for your child to be fighting for their life, because this does happen. You can have a demonic contract that you didn't put up, that you are completely unaware of, that your mother probably put up together, or one of your family. I think about a family member of mine. I think about a family member of mine that we always knew she was like, she's married into our family. She's not, but this lady has played with witchcraft since I've known her. So she's played with witchcraft since I've known her. That demon came to collect. And I don't want to go into details, but when you play with witchcraft, and I don't care if you did it in the past, if you entered into a covenant, the Bible tells you, give no rest to your eyes. Get yourself free from that. Get your deliverance. Because you don't know how much time you have left on that contract or what you have on that contract, because 9 times out of 10, you are completely ignorant of the small print. And when I say ignorant, I'm not saying stupid. I mean, that means ignore. That means information is present, but you chose to ignore it. That's what the root word of ignorance is ignore. So you want to make sure that you get the deliverance that you need. I'm going to do a mass deliverance, God willing. I'm going to do, and I'm saying it now. I know I'm going to do it in the month of December. I've been waiting to get clearance from my pastor, but I'm going to likely have to corner him. I'm not likely to have to corner him, but if. And I've had so many of you guys to reach out to me for deliverance, and my heart is burdened for that, or what have you. I have a lot of people that are like, "Hey, can you do that?" And it's very time consuming, guys. One-on-one deliverances. And I'm gonna say this. This is one of the things I'm pulling down from my website, because what I've been doing is coaching, and then you had to book me for 2 coaching calls. This is good news. It's not bad. But you had to book me for 2 coaching calls in order to get deliverance. What I'm gonna start doing, God willing, God willing, God willing. What my plan to do now is I'll still do coaching calls. When I put it back up, I'm going to put it back up once I reform it. But I'll still do coaching calls, but I'll likely do a monthly deliverance session for people who have booked the coaching calls, right? So you'll be able to book the coaching call and, get on to the deliverance session 9 times out of 10. And then one, that'll save you money, because you'll be just paying for the coaching call, the deliverance call. You'll have a slot up in there, and I'll likely do that once a month or once every other month, and that way I can do deliverance on 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people, as opposed to doing one-on-one deliverances, because one-on-one deliverances are very time consuming. I don't mind it, and I know there are some extreme situations where, like, if you happen to be somebody who's known, that you don't necessarily want your name out there. So I can understand you not want to be present. But at the same time, you're on the phone. Don't nobody know who's on the other end of that phone. Nobody knows who's on the other end of that phone. But, there'll be some cases very small, very minute. So don't email me saying my case is special. There'll be some cases where I may consider doing one-on-ones, but for the most part, I'll be just bringing people on the line and we'll just have a group deliverance. So what have you. I'm also going to be likely pointing you guys to some of people for like counseling and stuff like that. Of course, you guys know my dear friend Pastor Shan. She does counseling. She's a therapist. You can go to her website. They'll likely post it up over there for her website. But she does counseling, and so I would say get with her. Take yourself on a journey. I have to say this, and I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. Beautiful woman of God, handsome brother, powerful man of God, powerful woman of God. I had to say that because then some other woman of God. Why you call us beautiful and them powerful? We can be powerful too. Oh, good God, get deliverance. Y'all don't know the inbox stuff people send you. But child of God, anointed child of God, hear me when I say this. You've got to learn to love yourself enough to get free. The fact that you're not pursuing freedom is an indication of how you really feel about yourself. You got to love yourself enough to get therapy. You got to love yourself enough to say, I need therapy. And therapy is not something you get when problems hit. You get it then too, but you get therapy to keep problems from happening. Did you hear me what I said? You get therapy to keep yourself from going through problems. One of the most powerful testimonies or stories I had, I was at this marriage conference, and one of the panelists, it was something he said. I was on the panel with them, but I wanted to go sit in the audience because he just blessed my life. But I remember he said something that has stuck with me. It resonated with me to this day. Till this day. He was talking about being in the car with his wife, and I shared this before. He was in the car with his wife. Him and his wife are best friends. And he said one day he was taking his wife to work or something. And he said while they were in the car, he didn't have anything to say to her. He said they weren't mad at each other. They weren't fighting, nothing. He said she got in the car, she was quiet, and he was quiet the entire ride to work. And he said that wasn't like them. And he said when he got to her job, he said he looked at her, and I hope I'm telling the story right, but he looked at her and he told her, we got to get counseling. You book one with me? Did you book one with me, Joyfully Yours? And if you tried to book it in the last couple of days, I've taken my forms down because I'm overbooked right now. That blessed my life. I was like, come on. He said because he saw a problem on the horizon. He didn't wait for the problem to hit. That's our problems, that we reactive and not proactive. And he found out they were just, and this is what happens. This is what causes a lot of fights in marriages. This is what causes a lot of issues in marriages, is that we don't realize we are constantly growing and evolving. We are in constant evolution. We are constantly evolving into our God ordained selves, people that we're maturing. So we're constantly changing. And as you change, the person that you're with has to be reintroduced to you. They got to learn how to deal, because some of the stuff that you were into, you're not going to be into anymore. Yeah, it definitely marine spirit. It just signals that you're in need of deliverance. What was I saying? In a second. Awesome. I'm going to be doing a mass deliverance, guys, in the month of December. I've been saying it all year long, but I'm going to be doing a mass deliverance. I've been trying to get clearance from my pastor, but I've been saying it all year long. But I am going to do a deliverance in the month of December, God willing. I'm going to do a deliverance in the month of December because I feel the burden to do that. A mass deliverance. And of course, it is absolutely free. So don't worry about that. So don't think that you got to collect your coins. Coaching calls, one-on-one coaching calls for me are not free, however. But deliverance, I'm going to do a mass deliverance. The one thing that I will say, and this is before I close, one thing I will say, before you come on to the mass deliverance, you need to educate yourself about deliverance. One of the most annoying things to me, and I want you to hear me, and I think this is for every deliverance minister, is that people see deliverance as a shower between sins. And what that sets the stage for is them to get be taken right back into bondage by that same demon and to be worse off than they were before because they don't educate themselves about deliverance. So I want to make it a point. I have something called Deliverance Prep University. Register for it. Deliverance Prep University is designed to prepare you for deliverance. It's designed, it is it's on AnointedFire.com. And if you go under schools, one of the moderators posted up AnointedFire.com. If you go under, I think it says Academy, and you'll see Deliverance Prep. I think that's where it's at. And I'm going to be changing it where you'll be able to go to Teachable soon, and you'll be able to register for these schools. But register for Deliverance Prep University. It's just $19 to register for it. Deliverance Prep University, and it's not mandated, it's not mandatory that you go through. And I want to make sure I say that, because then you'll have somebody like, well, I can't get deliverance for free. You can come to the line to get deliverance for free, but chances are need it again. I'm gonna say that out loud. I ain't scared to say it out loud. Chances are, if you don't educate yourself about deliverance, chances are you're gonna need it again because you don't know why you're getting bound. That's why I created Deliverance Prep University, and I made it extremely cheap. I created it so that you can be educated about deliverance, so that you can come and you can learn about deliverance. And once you learn about deliverance, you learn, and that it basically prepares your mind for the process. And I have a book that I'm going to be releasing it's a deliverance prep book, because that is a passion of mine. It's a passion of mine. It genuinely bothers me when people don't understand deliverance, and they try to book. For when I was taking coaching calls for Deliverance 101, I got one left. But when I was taking coaching calls 101 for deliverance, I would only allow people to book me for 2 hours for deliverance. You could not book me for 1 hour for deliverance, because that person trying to book me for 1 hour or even 30 minutes was a person that just really didn't understand deliverance and didn't care to understand deliverance. They just like cast them out. But if I cast them out and the door is still open, or you still doing the same thing and hanging around the same people, chances are you're going to go back out there and get back down. And I don't want your blood on my hands. So my admonishment to you, if you want to be a part of not Esther Prep, definitely join Esther Prep University. I would love to mentor you. Definitely get in there, but register for Deliverance Prep University, guys. Register for it. If you plan on being a part of the deliverance, I'm going to send out a mass email for that. Register for it. Watch the videos. Go ahead. I think it's like 4 videos. Watch the videos and educate yourself. So by the time deliverance comes, you already know how to keep the devil out. You know what to expect before the deliverance hits. You know how the enemy is going to come at you, and you know how to keep him out. Don't just try to show up and want to get deliverance. Just show up ready to cough and vomit and go back out there. And next thing you know, you emailing me talking about, Sister Tiffany, is it possible for you to do a one-on-one with me? Because I just had this happen to me, and I'm like, well, did you register for Deliverance Prep? No. Why? I was trying to save $20. I love y'all, but that right there gets me sometimes. I remember, and it stands out to me. I was doing a deliverance call with some of the young ladies one time, and we were doing this deliverance call, and we had one girl out of the country, and she was having trouble calling into the free conference call line because she was out of the country. And everybody's telling her, get a calling card. And she was like, but it's going to cost me $10. She missed a powerful deliverance call for $10. She would have had to pay, to get her a calling card. I've never understood people who would rather keep their $10 bill in their demons. I've never understood those type of people. I have never understood those type of people, because right then and there, I'm going to say this before I go. If you're going to come on the deliverance call, deliverance is for the desperate. You can miss deliverance. You can come on a deliverance call and miss it. God will hit the desperate, the prideful. God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. Deliverance is grace. God resists the proud. I've seen it. I've done mass deliverances. The proud ones, they standing there and they wonder, why am I not manifesting? Why ain't nothing coming up out of me? Because you worried about what people think. You worried about you didn't prioritize the wrong things in the wrong place. You got everything above God. You need to bring some stuff down. You have to show up hungry. I'll say this, and I have to say it. I love my mom. I miss her dearly. We had a Pastor John Anasiki from South Africa, come to our church. And my mom had just been diagnosed, and this was back in 2017 or 18. My mom had just been re-diagnosed with breast cancer. He came to the church, and this man is walking in strong miracles. I'm talking about he walking around the church laying people out, casting out demons. I'm talking about it's just bonkers. Bananas, as they would say, I guess. Anyhow, everybody just, it's just chaotic in there. It's beautiful chaos. And he said, there's somebody, and he started rubbing his chest. He was like, somebody has cancer in their chest. And I was serving. And I started trying to look through the crowd, trying to find my mother. Like, if you don't get your butt out here, because I knew my mom. My mom was one of those type of Christians where she wanted you to prophetically detect her. because she's too worried about what people think about her. She wanted you to kind of pick her up in the spirit and come to her. That was, she wanted to be called out or what have you. So I already know that about her. So I started looking. I'm looking around trying to see if I can see my mom. He's constantly calling out for a couple of minutes. He's like, it's somebody here with cancer in the chest. God wants to heal you. God, and he's rubbing. Finally, this girl comes forward, and she had breast cancer or what have you. And she comes forward, and he takes his hand, and he doesn't touch her breast. He put his hand near it, and he just did this little twisting motion. She fell out. And when she woke up on the floor, he told her to feel for the lump, and she felt for it, and she just started screaming and crying because the lump was gone. My mother missed deliverance that day. We got in the car. I fussed all the way there. I fussed at her. I was like, why didn't you go out? She was like, well, he was saying this and that. And I was like, I don't care. At the end of the day, God would have healed you. But it was her pride. My mother would not come out. You would have to watch videos on narcissism. You have to watch the video. I have videos on narcissism. Y'all, the only thing is I can't make one-on-one commitments. That's the only thing, because then it'd be one individual versus hundreds of people or thousands of people that I can help. But you have to watch the videos and get the books and stuff like that. But my mother, I don't have a date for the mass deliverance yet. I get a lot of inbox messages. I'm looking at inbox messages and stuff. But my mother missed her opportunity because of pride. That cancer took her out. Pride goes before fall. I miss my mother dearly. But when I think back to that day, it frustrates me with her all over again. I miss her dearly because I think to myself, here it was, deliverance was right there, but you're too busy worried about what people think. You're too busy thinking about, I don't want them to see me. I don't want them to know. And somebody else, because he called out for a good minute or two before somebody else finally came out the crowd. And when I finally found my mom, the other girl didn't pray for. I could see her in the audience because she had the little hat on her head. Little cat, yeah, it was a hat. Not cat, but a hat. She standing there in the crowd, and I could see her head up like this, watching. If I don't teach you nothing else about deliverance, I'm a deliverance minister. It is disheartening for a deliverance minister to come in contact with a person who needs deliverance, and we can't give it to you because of your pride. It is disheartening. One of the demons that you want to pray against, if you have a lot of pride, is begin to pray and fast against the spirit of Leviathan. That's a spirit. You want to cast that thing down, because the Bible says you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Leviathan, what it does is it places scales around your heart. It is a demon that makes your heart hard. It makes you easily offended. Matter of fact, spirit of offense is one of the guarding spirits. The spirit of offense keeps the truth out. So when somebody tells you the truth, you get offended. That's a spirit. That's a spirit. You want to make sure that you get free. Y'all don't go into 2022 bound. Don't go into 2022 in bondage, because there is no good thing that comes to bondage but salvation and freedom. You got to want it, and you got to be desperate for it. If you're not desperate for it, you won't get it. If you entitled and you get mad because you don't want to make a sacrifice. Sister Tiffany, I will book Apostle Aubrey Hopkins, but his site says he charges this. Of course. What do you think? I have to say this, guys, because people have this they got this crazy understanding. Do you know the ministry of deliverance is in high demand? The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Why do you think I have to take my form down? If a deliverance minister freely just did deliverance, I mean, we could do mass deliverances and stuff like that, but most of the time they're charging you for coaching and counseling. They're not charging for the deliverance part. But if a deliverance minister literally sat there and they just said, anybody that wants deliverance, they would not be able to have a full-time job. They wouldn't be able to work for nobody. They would be on the phone doing deliverances all day long. That's it. That's the only thing they would be able to do. They would be doing deliverances, and all they'll get is a thank you. Deliverance is for the desperate, it's for the hungry. So a person who wants it will make that sacrifice. They'll make that sacrifice. People who are entitled not gonna get it anyhow. So it don't even bother. It doesn't even. It's not even useful for you to get it if you're gonna have a hard heart. I have to tell you because I want people to get free. So I'm saying that to say, have an understanding of it. Don't just think that people are supposed to sit there and tarry with you for 3 and 4 hours casting out your demons, and they supposed to get off the phone and you gonna say thank you, and then they got to go live in a shelter because they spending all of their time doing deliverance. That's the reason why for me, um, I do mass deliverances. I do mass deliverances, meaning I can get hundreds of people on the line and I can start casting out demons. I love mass deliverances. And even with the coaching calls, I realize I'm getting too many of them where it's beginning to take over my life. And I'm having to shut down my forums to the point where there are a lot of people that I can't work with. And so because of that, I want to be able to take multiple people through deliverance so I can still allow people to get coaching and counseling from me. And then we can set the stage for them to come on a deliverance call or what have you. Well, that's what we have to do as deliverance ministers. We have to work our system because some of y'all are called to deliverance, but you are post. So we having to deal with the people that you're supposed to be taking through deliverance because you're too busy trying to have fun. You too busy trying to run out here and find yourself in something else. And so now we're dealing with thousands of people. It's sad to me the amount of inbox messages I get. And I think for me the frustrating part is that I don't have time to respond to all these people. And I don't want people to be offended or think I don't care or what have you, but it's a full-time job responding to messages. Because most people are not going to send you a message and then be satisfied with your response. People are not like that. They're going to keep responding. And they're gonna sit there and expect you to have a dialogue with them for an hour. So we have to put protocol and things up to ensure so that we can do things and we can remain healthy. Counseling will help you to figure out what you need deliverance from. That's what I like to do first before I do deliverance. I like to do counseling. Because I've had plenty of deliverances where people have come to me and told me what their demons were, and by the time I was done counseling them, I'm like, no, it ain't. This is what your demons are. Here go your demons right here. Based on what you tell me, you got a spirit husband, you got this, you got this, you got this. This is where it came in at it, and what have you. And then when we start doing deliverance, the demon starts coming out. So it's always, you can pick out some, you can notice your own characteristics and stuff, and you got to study demonology to kind of understand the names of the demons. But for the most part, when you go to a deliverance minister, a lot of times, like Apostle Ivory Hopkins, he does counseling. A lot of deliverance ministers will do counseling with you, and when they do counseling with you, they're able to tell you that you need deliverance from this or you need deliverance from that. I remember one particular time I was under a major attack. And I booked Apostle Ivory Hopkins for deliverance. And I was on the phone like, it's just demons. And he's like, oh, it's a demon. I'm like, oh, it's demons. I was sure. But thankfully, he knew better. He knew that I was just in a really dark spot. And I think this was back in 2018 when I was going through that. That's the year I lost my mother. And I was going through so much. I was going through so much. All right, I'm going to get ready to let you guys go. But the point that I'm making I always want to make sure that I end with the conclusion is make sure you're not in a demonic contract. If you have seen the signs that you're in a demonic contract, please get out of it. Stop waiting on stuff. Y'all, we got to stop being reactive. Because it's crazy what people do. People like to come on the TV set and cry. they did this to him. They did that to him. Okay, ma'am, you knew that your son was in need of deliverance. You knew all of these things that was in your family. You knew you was in need of deliverance. Why you on the TV screaming and crying? Baby girl, this could have been prevented. You heard it here first. Could have been prevented. It could have been prevented. That's why I do free mass deliverances to take away the excuses. But I also tell you, get into Deliverance Prep University so you'll be educated. Because I'm not going to be responsible for what happens if you want to get deliverance and then you don't want to get educated about it. Let's make a commitment to taking care of our mental health. Because you would advance. You would go so far if you took care of your mental health. One of the things I teach, this is something that the Lord said to me when I was writing the Book of Boundaries. If you don't have my book, The Book of Boundaries, go to Amazon. It will bless the entirety of your life. Because let me tell you how you know a book is so anointed. All of my books are anointed, but I'm gonna tell you two of the books that I have that are the most anointed, because, and I can tell you based on the level of warfare I went through while writing them. Microscribology, even though it's for prophetic writers, that book has a lot of teachings on demonology in it. It is one of the most profound and revelatory books I've ever written about the spirit realm. I'm talking about the books Jezebel, extremely powerful, and then the Book of Boundaries. The Jezebelian has two books in the series, and then the Book of Boundaries. The Book of Boundaries is 5 books. Those are the most profound books I've ever written. They are full of revelation about the spirit realm that I didn't know is God was giving to me. I'm a prophetic writer, which means that a lot of stuff I write I didn't know before I started writing it. It's just revelation God gives you on the spot. The best book to get for demonology, I would say Apostle John Eckhart's books. He's very, just type in John Eckhart and Apostle Aubrey Hopkins. He does, I almost forgot, Apostle Aubrey Hopkins. He has a lot of books on demonology too. So those two are very key in identifying demons. They are very, and Apostle Alexander Pagani is good. My Apostle Brian Meadows, he has books on demonology. But I would say naming demons, like the different types of demons and characteristics. And Kim Daniels has a book called The Demon Dictionary. Has a book called The Demon Dictionary. Apostle Brian Lestrange has books on Jezebel, if I'm thinking right. Jennifer Claire has books on Jezebel and certain demons and stuff like that. Y'all can tell, like, what is this man's name? Oh gosh, Derek Prince. A lot of his books are on. Most of his books, if not all of them, are on demonology. Are on demonology. All right, I gotta go. I love y'all. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.